If you take a statin for your cholesterol, and you like a grapefruit at breakfast, there's something on the side of your medicine box worth 2 minutes of your time. I'm not here to scare you off either one. Your statin matters, and grapefruit is a genuinely good fruit. But there's a real, well-documented interaction between them, and by the end, you'll know the one thing that decides whether it has anything to do with you at all. Because for a lot of people, it doesn't. I went through the common statins, one by one which one's grapefruit touches, which it leaves completely alone, and how the whole thing actually works. And it's worth getting right, because it cuts both ways. Some people are quietly raising their dose without meaning to, and others have given up a fruit they love for no reason at all because their statin was never affected in the first place. Here's the part nobody tells you plainly. This isn't a grapefruit is dangerous story. It's a which statin are you on story. The same fruit, the same breakfast, and for one person it matters, and for the person next to them, it doesn't matter one bit. And before we go a step further, nothing in here is a reason to stop your statin, or change your dose, or bin your grapefruit on your own. This is about knowing enough to ask one good question. Your medicine stays exactly as your doctor said it, until your doctor says otherwise. It's one of the most common pairings in the country. 1 in 3 of us over 65 is on a statin. It's one of the most prescribed medicines there is. And grapefruit's been a breakfast staple for generations. So in kitchens all over Australia, the tablet and the fruit sit on the same table every morning. And most of the time, nobody's joined them up. Now, this isn't a secret. It's printed right there in the leaflet that comes with some statins. Avoid grapefruit juice. Your pharmacist knows it cold. But somehow, between the leaflet and the kitchen, the message goes fuzzy. Most people have heard, vaguely, that grapefruit and tablets don't mix, but they don't know which tablets. They don't know why. And they don't know the one detail that changes everything, that one glass can keep working for a whole day, long after breakfast's been cleared away. So let's clear the fog. 2 things on the table, the statin and the grapefruit. Let's give each of them a fair look, because they both deserve one, before we work out how on earth they end up tangled. Let's start with the statin, because it's earned a fair look. A statin does one clever, useful thing. It turns down your own body's cholesterol factory, in the liver, so there's less of the bad kind in your blood, and it works. For people at risk, it genuinely lowers the odds of a heart attack or a stroke, and that benefit holds up just as strongly past 70 and beyond. People who take them tend to live longer, in better health. So whatever else we say tonight, hold on to this. Your statin is, in all likelihood, doing you good. Now the grapefruit, and since it's been cast as the villain unfairly, let's set that right. It's a genuinely good fruit, loaded with vitamin C. Real fiber, including the kind that can actually help nudge your cholesterol down. Plenty of water, hardly any calories, just the sort of thing any doctor would be glad to see on your breakfast plate. There is nothing wrong with grapefruit. Let me say that plainly, because it matters. The fruit is not the problem. So here's the puzzle. 2 good things, a useful medicine and a healthy fruit, and yet, together, sometimes, trouble. How? The answer turned up by pure accident. Back in the late 80s, scientists were running a completely different experiment, testing a blood pressure drug using grapefruit juice just to hide the taste of something else. And the numbers came back wrong. The level of the drug in people's blood had jumped 3-4 times higher than it should have. The grapefruit, the throwaway ingredient, had done it quietly, and once they pulled that thread, it kept unraveling. It turned out grapefruit doesn't just move one drug, it can change how dozens of them behave. Today, the list runs to more than 80 medicines, and for a good handful of those, it's worth taking seriously. This isn't some trendy new scare. Doctors and pharmacists have known it for over 30 years. The statin is simply one well-known name on that list. But here's what keeps it from being frightening, and points the way out. For statins, the clash is incredibly specific. It's not statins and grapefruit. It's certain statins, the ones broken down by one particular root in your body and grapefruit. Put the wrong statin together with the fruit, and it's like quietly turning a normal dose into a bigger one. Put a different statin with it, and the fruit sails straight past, no bother at all. So it all comes down to that one route, the little doorway in your gut where statins get broken down and where grapefruit, it turns out, can stand in the way. Understand that doorway, and the whole thing finally makes sense. Let me show you how it works. In the wall of your gut sits a tiny tool, picture it as a filter or a bouncer on the door whose whole job is to break down part of many medicines before they ever reach your blood. It's quality control. It makes sure that when you swallow a tablet, the amount that actually gets through is the amount your doctor planned for. Now, grapefruit carries natural chemicals that, for a while, switch that filter off. With the bouncer gone, more of certain statins walk straight through into your blood more than your doctor intended. You took the same tablet you always take. But without the filter doing its job, it lands in your system like a bigger dose. One glass of grapefruit juice can double, even triple, the amount of some statins in your blood. And here's the part that catches people out because you'd think, fair enough, I'll just keep them apart. Grapefruit at breakfast, tablet at night. But it doesn't work like that. Grapefruit doesn't just block that filter for a few minutes, it damages it. And your body has to build new ones from scratch. That takes the best part of a day. So one glass this morning can still be working tonight and into tomorrow. A few hours gap isn't a fix. Think of it less like flicking a light switch off and on, and more like spilling something on your shirt. It lingers, long after the meal's done. So, what does that quietly bigger dose actually do? Mostly, it just does more of what the statin already does, including, sometimes, more of the side effects. And for statins, the one to know about is the muscles. Some people on statins get muscle aches, a tenderness, a heaviness in the legs. It's the most common grumble, and most people never get it badly. But a bigger than planned dose nudges the odds up, especially if you're older or already on a higher dose. There's a rare, serious version where muscle tissue breaks down enough to put a strain on the kidneys. But hold on to the word rare, because it matters. This happens to a tiny handful of people out of tens of thousands, and most people on a statin go their whole lives never near it. Grapefruit can nudge that small risk up a notch, in theory, but a nudge on a tiny number is still a tiny number. So let's keep the balance honest. For nearly everyone, the good a statin does heading off heart attacks and strokes dwarfs all of this. Grapefruit doesn't make your statin dangerous. With the wrong statin, it just quietly tips the scales the wrong way. And any new, unexplained muscle ache is simply the kind of thing worth mentioning to your doctor. Which brings us, at last, to the only question that actually decides your morning. Because all of this, the filter, the lingering, the tilted scales, only happens with some statins, not all. So the whole thing comes down to one word, printed on your box. Let me show you the great divide. So, here it is, the one thing that decides whether any of this is about you. Every statin falls into one of two camps, the grapefruit-sensitive ones and the ones grapefruit can't touch. And which camp you're in isn't a guess. It's a name, printed on your box and your leaflet. So let's read both lists, slowly, because this is the part actually worth remembering. First, the three that grapefruit does affect: simvastatin, lovastatin, and atorvastatin. Say them with me, because these are the ones to know. The first two, simvastatin and lovastatin, are the most sensitive of all. That's where one glass can double or triple the dose. Atorvastatin's affected too, properly, just not quite as steeply. If your box says one of those three, grapefruit is a real conversation to have. Now the other camp, and for a lot of you, this is the moment to let your shoulders drop. Rosuvastatin, pravastatin, fluvastatin, pitavastatin. For these, grapefruit is, as far as the evidence goes, simply not a problem. And it's not luck, it's chemistry. These statins don't use that gut filter we talked about, so switching it off changes nothing. The fruit walks right past them. If your box says one of those, you can very likely keep your grapefruit and your statin side by side the way you always have. And the lovely thing is, you don't have to take my word for any of it. The proof is in your own kitchen drawer. Pull out the leaflet that came with your statin, that folded paper most of us bin. On the sensitive ones, it'll tell you in black and white, avoid grapefruit juice or do not drink grapefruit juice. On the safe ones, there'll be no grapefruit warning at all, and that silence is the answer. The leaflet's been telling you which camp you're in the whole time. So here's the rule you can carry out the door. If your statin starts with sim, love, or ater, grapefruit's worth a proper chat. If it's rosuvastatin, pravastatin, fluvastatin, or pitavastatin, it's very likely fine. But, and this is the important bit, don't act on a rule of thumb alone. And please don't go switching anything yourself. A name on a box is where the conversation starts, not where it ends. Your pharmacist can confirm your exact medicine in 30 seconds. So that's the big one settled, whether it's even your statin, but say it is. Say you're on one of the sensitive 3, and you love your grapefruit. The next question is the one everyone asks. Does a single segment really matter? Or are we talking about the daily jug of juice? And does it even have to be grapefruit? Let me clear that up. Here's the honest, calming truth. This is about amount and habit, far more than the odd bite. The studies that found the big effects mostly used a daily glass of juice, and the really dramatic, scary numbers came from people drinking a liter a day, which, let's be honest, almost nobody does. A whole glass of juice is the squeezings of several grapefruit. Half a fruit, now and then, carries far less. So an occasional segment is a very different thing from a jug every morning. But, and you knew there'd be a but, remember that lingering from earlier. Because one glass keeps that filter switched off for the best part of a day, it's the pattern that counts as much as the portion. A grapefruit every single morning keeps the filter down around the clock. That's the difference that matters. Not did I ever touch it, but is it a daily fixture? Now the question I get most, does it even have to be grapefruit? Good news, and it's worth knowing. The troublemakers are a small, specific club. Grapefruit, its big cousin the pomelo, the bitter Seville orange you find in marmalade, and a few of their hybrids. That's the lot. Your ordinary breakfast orange, the navel, the Valencia is completely fine. Mandarins, fine. Lemons, fine. So if you're on a sensitive statin and you're missing your morning citrus, you don't have to give up orange juice. You just swap the grapefruit for an orange, and you've kept your breakfast and lost the problem. And if grapefruit specifically is your one true love, you're still not stuck, you've got options. But these are options to take to your doctor or pharmacist, not moves to make on your own. They might talk with you about 3 things. How much and how often you actually have it. Whether the timing of your tablet helps though, fair warning, that's a partial fix at best, not a clean escape. Or whether a different statin, one grapefruit can't touch, would suit you just as well. And that last one is the quiet hero of this whole story. Because for a lot of people, the fix isn't giving up a fruit they love, it's a simple change of statin their doctor's happy to make, so they keep the grapefruit and the heart protection, both. But say it with me one more time, that's a conversation, not a decision you make in the kitchen. You bring it up, they decide. Nothing changes until they say so. So, we've got the whole picture now. What it is, who it touches, how much matters, and the ways round it. Time to step back and ask the honest question. At the end of all this, how big a deal is grapefruit and a statin really? Let me give you the straight, balanced answer. How big a deal is grapefruit and a statin? It sits right in the middle of 2 wrong answers. It's not an old wives' tale, it's real, it's measured. Doctors take it seriously. But it's also not a reason to lie awake. For most people, it's a known, manageable precaution, the kind of thing a 30-second check sorts out for good. Not a myth, not an emergency. Somewhere sensible in between. And when it has caused real trouble, it's almost never one grapefruit on its own. The genuine problems tend to be a stack of things piled together, a high dose of a sensitive statin, plus a lot of grapefruit, every day, plus maybe other medicines, plus kidneys or a liver that aren't at their best. One slice of grapefruit with a low-dose tablet is a world away from that stack. Knowing that should let most of you breathe out. So why does every proper source say the same thing? Ask your doctor or pharmacist. Never stop your statin. Because this is the bit that really matters, more than any grapefruit ever could. Stopping a statin on your own out of worry, out of caution, quietly raises your risk of the very heart attack or stroke it was put there to prevent. The fruit, on the wrong day, might nudge a small risk up a little, Stopping the medicine can take a real, protective benefit away entirely. Those are not the same size of mistake. So whatever you do, the statin stays until a professional says otherwise. And there's a second reason it's their call, not yours or mine. Only the person who prescribes your medicine can see the whole board, which statin, what dose, how your kidneys and liver are doing, what else you take, your actual heart risk. That's everything you'd need to weigh it up properly, and it's not printed on any box. They might leave things exactly as they are. They might offer the simple statin swap. They might just say, keep the grapefruit occasional. But that's a judgment built on your whole picture, which is why it can only be made with them. So let me leave you with the calm, two-part truth of it. 1. Grapefruit is still a genuinely good fruit. If you're not on a sensitive statin, and most people aren't, or you have it now and then, it can stay right where it is, on your plate, doing you good. And 2, where it does overlap with a sensitive statin, this is something to check, not something to dread. A real, simple question with a real, usually easy answer. Your statin is, in all likelihood, protecting your heart. Your grapefruit is a healthy fruit. The only knot is when those two specific things happen to overlap, and that knot is untied with one conversation. Which brings us, where these stories always come, to one real person, because the difference between losing sleep and breathing easy usually comes down to a single moment, a single question, asked or not asked. Let me tell you about someone who almost got it wrong. So let me tell you about Maureen, 74, out in suburban Brisbane. She's been on a statin for years though. If you asked her which one, she'd have to dig out the box and check. And like so many of us, she's caught a half rumor somewhere. Grapefruit and tablets don't mix. Nobody ever told her more than that. So Maureen's been left to guess. And the trouble with guessing is, you can get it wrong in two completely opposite directions. In one version of Maureen's story, she played it safe. Quietly, sadly, she gave up grapefruit, a fruit she's loved since she was a girl, because she was frightened it might be hurting her, somehow, with her tablet. And here's the heartbreak. Maureen's on rosuvastatin, the safe kind. The grapefruit was never any threat to her at all. She gave up something she loved, something genuinely good for her, in exchange for nothing, just a quiet little loss, every breakfast, for no reason. But picture the other Maureen. This one never heard the rumor at all, and she's on simvastatin, and she has half a grapefruit and a glass of juice most mornings, the way she always has. She feels completely fine. But quietly, her statin levels may be running higher than her doctor ever intended, and the thing is, she doesn't even know this is a question worth asking. She's not being careless. Nobody handed her the one fact that would let her ask. And that's the whole gap. In one woman, two ways. Not grapefruit is bad, not your statin is bad, just not knowing which Maureen you are. And here's the lovely part. Both Maureens have the exact same fix, and it costs nothing, and it takes 3 minutes. She puts the box in her handbag. She walks into the chemist down the road. No appointment, no fee, no fuss. And she asks one plain question. I've heard grapefruit doesn't mix with some statins. Does it matter for this one? And the pharmacist, who does exactly this all day long, checks the name, takes a few seconds, and gives her one of two answers. Either, you're fine, this one's not affected, enjoy your grapefruit, and the first Maureen gets her breakfast back, just like that. Or, this one can be affected. Let's jot down how much you have, and raise it with your GP next visit. And the second Maureen walks out with a clear, calm plan, instead of a risk she never knew she was carrying. So, whichever Maureen you might be, and whichever statin's in your cupboard, the worst thing you can do is what she so nearly did. Guess, in silence. Give up a good fruit for nothing, or carry a risk you can't see. There's a better move, and it's almost embarrassingly simple. Let me give it to you, the whole thing, in one last plain step. So here's the whole thing, the one move that does it all, and it's smaller than you'd think. Tonight, or next time you're passing, put your statin box in your bag. Not a photo, not the name scribbled down the actual box, and take it to your pharmacist. and ask them this, more or less word for word. This is my cholesterol tablet. Does this one interact with grapefruit? And if it does, how much grapefruit is a problem for me? Say it like that, and you've done something clever. You've forced a real, personal answer about your tablet, your dose, instead of a vague, oh, grapefruit's bad, or an equally vague, don't worry about it. You walk out knowing, for certain, which Maureen you are. And just as important, 2 things not to do because this is where people trip. 1. Don't stop your statin, or skip it, or split it, or shift it over something you heard about a fruit. That medicine is doing quiet, important work, and dropping it on a hunch can hand back the very risk it's holding off. 2. And the flip side, don't bin the grapefruit in silence either, the way the first Maureen did, just because a headline gave you a fright. Find out whether the warning's even yours before you give up a fruit you love. So let that be the calm of it. For most older Australians, your statin is quietly saving you from a heart attack or a stroke that's real, and it matters. And grapefruit is a good fruit, vitamin C and fiber, welcome on plenty of breakfast tables. The only knot in the whole thing is the rare morning when those 2 specific items sit on the same plate. You don't fix that by giving up the medicine, or the fruit, alone in your kitchen. You fix it with a box, a question, and 3 minutes of someone's time. Because here's what this whole channel keeps coming back to. The label, the leaflet, the medicine, they're full of answers, but only if someone hands you the question. Tonight, you've got the question. And grapefruit is just one of these. Your kitchen and your medicine cabinet are full of quiet little crossings, like it foods and tablets that mostly get along, and just now and then don't. Our sister channel, Aussie Patch, is where we walk through more of them, calmly, one at a time. That's a good one to follow next. Here's the data. You decide.